are great times for people centricity, and corporates have never been looking on these directions except for certain checkboxes to be done.
Universities, educational institutions, colleges, even schools, they have switched over to online education in no time.
The mind share is like more of expectations.
What has really come out well is the demonstration of the human resilience.
Box is getting shift to people centricity, to managing people, to being with people. Welcome to Happier Beings conversational series on role of professional happiness for improving productivity in COVID world. Today, we are discussing how to turn around crisis with happiness. We have Sri Surya Prakash Mohapatra. Surya Prakash Mohapatra ji is currently the Global Head Talent Transformation at Wipro Digital Operations and Platforms. He has 23 plus years of experience in various leading roles in several leading IT and ITS organizations. Prior to Wipro, he worked in HP, Microland, First Ring, Computer Garage, and a few other organizations. Surya has extensive experience in setting up and running learning and development functions for organizations in India and international location. Surya has set up the global training functions for Wipro BPS, which spanned across 10 locations in Brazil, Mexico, Romania, Poland, China, and India. He has led leadership development, capability building, and talent management efforts in various organizations. World HRD Congress has recognized Surya as one of the 25 most talented training and development leaders in the world. Moreover, Global Knowledge Management Congress has conferred the Knowledge Management Leadership Award on Surya. Recently, popular HR journal Human Factor featured him in their 2016 listing of Best HR Leader in India. Welcome, Surya, to the show. How are you doing today?
Thank you, Puneet, for inviting me to this show, and then I'm really feeling excited about this, and I definitely consider this to be a great opportunity. I'm doing pretty good today.
My first question is, COVID-19 is forcing people around the world to live and work in radically different ways. Social distancing, remote working, reduced staff, travel bans, virtual meetings, high hygiene, mandatory use of masks. How has this change affected people at workplace?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. So all of us know that COVID-19 is a black swan event. And when events of this nature take place, they actually disrupt lives. They disrupt many things. And when we talk about human beings, when we talk about people, people have different aspects of their life. They have their individual life, their conjugal life, their familial life, their professional life, their social and national lives. So we cannot look at their professional life or work life in isolation. So if there is problem at home, it's going to impact their work life. If there is something not going right at the workplace, it's going to impact their personal lives, their family lives, and so on. If there's something happening across the country, in the economy, in the industry, it's going to impact their personal, professional, family lives as well. So in my opinion, we cannot really look at work life, we cannot look at work or profession in isolation, because COVID-19 has actually triggered a series of battles. It has triggered a battle between life and livelihood, a battle between today and tomorrow, a battle between demand and supply, a battle between man and nature, a battle between local and global, globalization and localization, and so on. There's a series of battles which have been triggered by COVID-19. It's impacting us, it's impacting our personal and professional life. People are getting impacted in all aspects of their lives. Especially when we talk about work, we see different people in different industries are getting impacted differently. There are some industries, some organizations which are thriving in this crisis, and there are some which are struggling to survive, and there are others who are barely managing. So depending on where an individual is working, in which industry or which organization where he or she is working, the experience probably is different. There is a great deal of uncertainty, a sense of insecurity, a sense of fear, a sense of volatility. That's probably dominating people's minds today. While they're trying to adapt and embrace the change, as we know that different people have different their own style, their own ways of dealing with stress, dealing with anxiety, dealing with the crisis. Some are coping it very well, some are struggling. So I think these are challenging times, unprecedented times, and we are seeing impact of that at the workplace and on people.
So thank you so much. So we'll come back to this scenario of understanding a little deeper on the challenges piece. So since we are discussing about professional happiness, it's so important to bring about things which is happening right, things which are positive. The mind share is like more of expectations or things which are deficiencies. So what do you feel which is happening positive in these times? What is happening right?
Well, there are quite a few things which are happening right, and that's really encouraging and inspiring. So first of all, I think, as we know, that every crisis provides us an opportunity. And historically, if we look back, there have been major wars in the past which have led to a lot of changes, revolutionizing changes in our country, in the world, in economy, in business, and so on. And what we have also seen and understood, that human beings are by nature resilient. And while human beings today are dealing with stress, anxiety, fear, etc., we have also seen a great deal of resilience in people. So, for example, when the COVID-19 crisis hit us badly, organizations, businesses started shutting down. Many organizations believed that it can be business as usual, work can continue to happen. And today, unlike the past, today technology is a very big enabler and work can happen. So we saw how millions of people moved from work from office to work from home in a seamless manner. It just happened overnight. In a couple of days, we found that thousands of organizations have moved to the work from home. I think people are generally resilient. In normal circumstances, people probably would have pushed back, they would have protested, they wouldn't have liked it. But when you leave people with no choice, when you give them no options, they adapt to the situation, to the environment very, very quickly, and human beings have demonstrated that. Universities, educational institutions, colleges, even schools, they have switched over to online education in no time. Universities traditionally were not comfortable, except for a few forward-looking, probably progressive universities, which have already made a lot of progress in that space, in the technology space. But by and large, many educational institutions would have taken many, many years to start or switch over to online education. But this switch happened seamlessly in no time. Even small kids, they started learning online. Professors, teachers who have never taught online, they have always stood up inside a classroom in front of their students and taught. They seamlessly migrated to this new mode of teaching, of facilitating. So to me, that's a very positive thing. What has really come out well is the demonstration of the human resilience. And we have seen when there is disruption, when there are widespread ramifications because of the crisis, human beings have the ability to stand up and take up the challenge positively, make meaning out of it, and sometimes find new ways of doing things. And sometimes they demonstrate the ability, if not everybody, but there are few who really stand up and then demonstrate that they can convert this crisis into a very positive opportunity.
Yeah,
These are the
absolutely. So,
positives of this crisis.
yeah, so mostly, I mean, the change is not the problem, as you have described it so wonderfully. Hearing to you, it looks to me and understanding very clear that change is not a problem at all. People have just adapted so fast to this change.
I think what matters is not the change, but it's how we respond to the change.
How we respond to the
That's a key differentiator and the key deciding factor.
Absolutely. And the response has come up so nicely all across. We are, trying to see this new normal, as people are calling this, is going to stay for long, at least in the near foreseeable future. So in these new situations of working, there are certainly concerns from people still. And what do you think which needs to be done differently, which can enhance working of the people?
All of us know that the new norm is a given. This is, we will not go back to the old world. Beyond COVID-19, we will see a new world. And I don't think the new world is so much of a concern, but what is the concern is, what does it have in store for us? What does it mean? Does it mean good things or bad things? Are we ready? What we need to do to prepare ourselves for it? We all know that the new world can be an exciting world, but the concern today is, are we ready for it? So in my opinion,
we are calling this new world as COVID world.
I think we don't know that there could be another black swan event, and that could again trigger a new wave of changes. I think this is the new norms are going to be a new pattern that will keep changing. And COVID-19 is not the last disruptive event that we are going to see. We'll probably see many more in our lifetime.
Right.
So the question is, how do we really prepare ourselves for the new world? The new world will be very different. The new world, if we talk about workplace, business, economy, we'll see the new world will require different business models, different organization structures. The new world will see, a lot of changes at the workplace. The whole concept about jobs, salaries, roles, etc. will change. Organizations will start emphasizing or valuing fitment over qualification. So qualification probably would have the least importance. What they would look at is this guy going to fit into my organization, into the new way of doing things, into the new business models that we're introducing. Doesn't matter whether the person is a PhD or an MBA or has a master's degree in some field. Does he have relevant skills? Is he going to fit into my organization, into the new way of doing things? So ability to create impact, ability to fit into the new scheme of things would have greater value over qualification. The new world will be largely enabled by technology, new business models, new way of doing things. The new world is going to be a world which will cross the barrier of time and space. Tomorrow, you may not have to really worry about where your people are located. In the past, an organization used to set up an office in a city and used to recruit people from that city or the vicinity areas or the vicinity or the states in proximity and so on. And people used to come to the workplace every day. Thousands of people used to come to the workplace. But that may not be the case tomorrow. Tomorrow you could have distributed offices. 1,000 people can be sitting anywhere in the world. So you might virtually run 1,000 offices and not just one office. One manager overseeing the work of 1,000 people at the workplace, but one manager overseeing the work of 1,000 people who are distributed. So the new world is going to look very different in terms of the business models, in terms of the workplace, the look and feel at the workplace, the jobs, the roles, the functions, the organized structure, the hierarchies, all that will look very different. And a lot of that will be enabled by technology, network teams, collaborative workspace, and so on. So the new world will require new skills. The new world will require new abilities, new competencies, new mindsets, new beliefs, new values. What we need to do to get ready, we need to prepare our workforce for the new world in terms of equipping them with the right skills, enabling them with the right tools and platforms and technologies, and helping them build the right mindsets and attitudes and beliefs. And organizations, leaders will have to focus on that. I think that's the only way they can prepare the workforce for the new world.
Absolutely, absolutely. So when you say preparing workforce, now what do you think, about professional happiness? How important is it at work in the new COVID world? And what do you mean with the professional happiness, if I have to ask you?
All right. As I said earlier, profession is one aspect of human life. So a man has to be happy overall. A man cannot be professionally happy and unhappy at home, or unhappy as an individual. So I think the focus has to be overall wellness and overall happiness, overall state of mind of the individual. I think that's what is important. So what drives this happiness? I think since I have some inclination towards spirituality, and my spiritual guide, Sri Thakur Gurchandra, says happiness and sorrow are different states of mind. So if we can influence the state of mind, then we can really control whether we are happy or we are unhappy. So he says, as long as you have not been able to remove the sense of inadequacy from your mind, you will continue to feel that you are poor. But if you are able to remove that sense of inadequacy from your mind, then you will feel resourceful. You will feel confident. You will feel happy. I think that's a very, very profound concept, very profound line. And he says, becoming happy is very simple. He says, make others happy, you will become happy yourself. Give peace to others, you will find peace in abundance. You will find peace in plenty. So I think the fundamental principles of happiness remain the same, whether it is happiness at home, happiness at workplace, happiness with myself. I think that remains the same. So I think professional happiness is all about making others happy. It's all about sharing happiness. It's all about helping and enabling others. So if I am comfortable, if I am doing good in my job, in my role, it's not enough. I need to make sure that my colleagues are competent. If they're struggling, it's my responsibility to help them come up to speed. If they are finding it difficult, it's my job is to enable. If they're struggling mentally, if they're going through stress, it's my job to motivate them, inspire them, help them feel better. So being happy, doing good in my profession, myself, just making sure that I have the latest skills, I have the right technologies, I have the right network, is not going to lead to my professional happiness. I may be happy in the short run, I may be temporarily happy, I might be feeling that I'm doing pretty good, But if my colleagues are struggling, if my team members are struggling, if my manager is struggling, if my customer is struggling, if my stakeholders, my business partners are struggling, then I cannot be successful myself. I cannot be happy myself. To me, professional happiness is about sharing happiness, distributing happiness, enabling and helping, collaborating, making sure that we collectively succeed. I think that's the fundamental aspect of professional happiness in my opinion.
Yeah. And how important is professional happiness in these times? We describe and you have taken through the understanding of how people are adapting. Change is not a problem, it seems. But certainly, the times are very uncertain. The sense of fear is there. I see people who have to go to work, they crisscross from certain containment areas. People have a sense of fear in the mind of touching something and then having a doubt in their mind, interacting with people from distance. And if somebody sneezes, if somebody cough, you have a sense of fear setting in straight away. And in these times, the mindset is not normal. There's a huge sense of fear and uncertainty both. So how does one, enhance happiness at work culture, at workplace?
Right. So I think today we are in a transition phase. Governments across the world have announced the relaxation of lockdown. Organizations, people are going back to the workplace. Some people continue to operate from home. And so this phase of transition will continue for some time. And as things will evolve, but we will see a lot of people back at the workplace, still struggling, trying to figure out, living in a state of fear. The colleague who is sitting next to me, maybe he or she is infected. Am I safe? What do I need to do? And so on. And there are a lot of people who are working from home. They have another set of challenges. The challenges they face at home is the work seems to be never ending. Because you are working, and then because you don't have to commute to work, your work requires you to be in front of the computer and then work. You can just keep doing that. But the challenge at home is that your parents are also with you. Your children are also not going to school. Your spouse is also not going to office. And so that's a different, scenario altogether. And so that's posing a different kind of challenge, bringing its own stress of managing work, family, the work at home, and the professional work, balancing the equations, maintaining the relationships, maintaining the emotional and personal, emotional, spiritual balance. I think that's become a big challenge. In the context of these things, while the workforce is grappling with challenges, difficulties, fear, helplessness, etc., I think what organizations can do? Organizations can demonstrate great leadership. When we log into the social media pages, you will find many organizations are conducting many employee engagement events. But in my opinion, it's not about employee engagement events. It's all about experience. What experience that we provide to our people. How do we make them feel safe, secure, emotionally connected with their co-workers? How do we make them feel confident? How do we make them feel stress-free? How do we make them feel empowered? I think it's all about that. People will not remember what events we ran, what awards we gave them, what we did for them, but they will remember how we made them feel. So how we make them feel is the most important aspect at these times, because it's the emotional, mental turmoil which is the biggest challenge that people are grappling with. I think leaders play a very important role, and it's not about providing training to people and expecting that they now become better to deal with these big challenges. It's not about events, it's not about trainings, it's not about webinars, it's about coaching, counseling, mentoring. I think the leaders will have to step up. They will have to communicate, engage with them. No amount of communication is overload. I would say communicate is important. Talk to your people, understand them, listen to them, communicate about your plans, communicate about the organization's strategy, communicate its impact on them, discuss with them how to deal with how they are dealing with the challenges, how you can help them. Then what else? I think leaders need to empower them. While people are now trying to balance work and home and their personal lifestyle, their taste preferences, pastimes, etc., we cannot really be kind of micromanaging people. We can't be looking over people's shoulders and then figure out what they're doing, how many hours they're spending, from whether they're spending time from 9 to 7 or 9 to 5, whatever. I think we should empower them. We should neither spoon feed them nor micromanage them. We should let them be on their own. We should manage them by their outcomes, not by the number of hours they have put in, because they are really facing challenges while managing work from home. So I think it's about empowerment. The third thing I would say, in addition to communication and empowerment, I would say preparing your people for the future. It's not the realities, the status quo will change. The realities will move into the world, and then we enable our people. Because of the changes that have happened in organizations, organizations have been forced to relook at their structures, the business models, etc. Many organizations, smaller ones, have started laying off people. But I would say they need to take care of people. Laying off is not a solution in my mind. Well, you might talk to your people, and then you might share your concerns. You might share the financial situation of your organization with your people. You might work with your people where people can collaborate and share the burden. But I don't think laying off is the right thing, because at this time of crisis, we need to support people. We need to take care of people. That's important. We also need to enable people to look after themselves, because we know that in the new world, roles will change. We know the work will change. We know that people will need new skills, new business models, new attitude to succeed. So we need to build that new capability. I think these are some of the things which organizations and leaders need to do. Leaders need to step up to support people, to make sure that the professional happiness is enhanced and there is meaningful contribution to people's lives.
Yeah, absolutely. So I believe, everything starts from the top. If the leader of an organization is happy, so will be the people. And in these times, as you very rightly say, that leaders have to step up. Now, these are so unusual times. Even if you see from the shoes of leader, he also would not have seen things like this. And how to take company and people from where we are right now. He has to see managing revenues coming in. The flow of revenues has to be there. Yet there are huge pressures on bottom line, and we are talking about salary cuts. We are talking about delayed salaries, which is happening, and managers have to, communicate with the employees, and employees have to understand, all of the people are together in this crisis. So money as a mode of transaction is getting serious beating, and so is the revenues, because in a company you have to attain certain level of revenues, and employees have to attain certain salaries. Now all of this is spiraling, and cuts are happening all throughout. So what do you feel, for improving productivity? Now, usual tools of improving productivity are awards, rewards, incentives, hikes, promotions. And on the other side, if you see, we are talking about constraints. We are talking about salary not happening in time. Now, this is a generic situation, not specific to the company, but happening all across. So in these times, learning and development, giving right tools to managers, to leaders, is more important. So what do you feel, 2-3 important things which can help leaders, which can help people managers deal with these situations? What should be that learning?
Right. Yeah, as you rightly said, leaders will have to make sure that the bottom line is kind of looked at. The cash flow is there because a business cannot survive without cash. At the same time, we'll also have to ensure that people don't get impacted, they don't lose their jobs. If they lose their jobs, it'll impact their families. Some of them may even go hungry, they might starve, they may not have enough to take care of them. So I think this is a balancing act. It's a balance between profits and people, and that's the most important task for the leader today. And it's not an easy task. It's an easy task. Easier said than done. It's easier to say that the leader has to do the balancing act, but it's very difficult. Most important thing is at this time of crisis, we'll also have to understand that while the team members are human beings, the leader is also a human. While the team members may have anxieties and fear and sense of insecurity, the leader also may have all of this. So the most important thing for the leader is to stay back for a moment and then look into himself and herself and then find out what he or she is going through at the moment. When we fly, there is an important announcement that comes. The air hostess makes an announcement that if there is if the oxygen pressure goes down inside the aircraft, put on your oxygen mask first before helping others. So leader, being a human being, has to help himself or herself first before helping others. I think that's the most important thing. A leader can be vulnerable. A leader can be feeling insecure. A leader can be having the same challenges at home while his or her team members might be going through. I think the most important thing for the leader is to stay back and then look at himself or herself and figure out what he or she is going through, how he or she can help himself or herself to get over this crisis before the leader is ready to help others. So that would be my 2 cents. Stay back, look at yourself. I think your self-awareness is very important. If you are not self-aware, if you don't know what you're going through at the moment, your actions can have dangerous repercussions because you don't know what state of mind that you're experiencing, and that might impact your actions. It's very important to stay back, look at your vulnerabilities, look at your state of mind, help yourself first before helping others. I think that would be my first advice. Then, once you're able to do that, then the most important thing is to make sure that how do you balance the two, your cash flow and the needs of your people. How do you really manage profits and people at the same time? I think that's going to be an important task because leaders, the true character of the leader is understood at the time of the crisis. How do you make sure that the organization which is providing bread and butter to people is looked after, is taken care of, is stable. At the same time, how do you also ensure that people are taken care of? I think that's the most important thing. So I think most important for the leader would be to rethink, reimagine, reinvent. The conventional way of driving things may not work. What worked in the past may not work. So the leader has to figure out that how can we relook at our business model and make sure that we continue to remain active, and then we continue to make sure that the cash flows come in. So to give an example, when in this crisis, when the automobile companies stopped selling cars, we know that General Motors and the Fords of this world also started manufacturing ventilators. Many cloth manufacturers started manufacturing masks. You know, that's another way of making sure that your operations are running, your business is running, and there is cash flow that is coming in. That's important because you need to stay afloat, you need to stay alive. So the advice for the leader, or rather, not an advice, but the suggestion, my 2 cents for the leader would be to look at what you have and find what you don't have. Leverage what you have, find what you don't have. So ITC group did something very interesting. So they reached out to the Domino's door-to-door distribution network. So they said, look, we don't have a door-to-door distribution channel, but we manufacture grocery products. And Domino's, hey, you guys have a door-to-door distribution channel, but you are not selling pizzas now because nobody's buying pizza because of safety concerns and other concerns. So why can't we work together, and why can't we use your distribution, your home delivery distribution network to provide groceries to our end customers? Emergence of a new business model. ITC leveraged what they have, and they found what they don't have. I think that's the trick for the leader. The leader will have to look around, because there are resources that you might be feeling, starved of cash. You might be feeling that you don't have enough resources. You might feel that you don't have the wherewithal to run business. But if you look around, there may be ways. I think the leaders will have to really look around to make sure that they rethink, reinvent, reimagine to keep their businesses alive. Coming to the people aspect, I think they have to take care of the people. It has to be collective action. The people will also have to come forward and share the burden with the organization. What does it mean? Well, does it mean that we still retain our jobs, but we take a salary cut for a temporary period? Now, that's how you can share the burden of your organization as well. You know that your organization is really struggling, you don't have enough cash flows, you can pay salaries. So as a leader, one has to be transparent, one has to communicate, engage, explain what's going on in the organization, and explain the intent of the organization to take care of the people, and then engage in a discussion how they can work together to kind of take a collective responsibility of keeping the interests of the organization and the people alive.
I am trying to see and talk about business model, revenues, bottom line, cash flow, transactions, and invariably the beauty of this transition, or the beauty that COVID world has forced, is we are talking and leaning the talks every time the business lines are there. The talks is getting shift to people centricity, to managing people, to being with people, and as being as much close in terms of understanding how to be together in this situation. That's wonderful to see. These are great times for people centricity, and corporates have never been looking on these directions except for certain checkboxes to be done. And this is more like a state of felt deprivation, a need that now you have to make things which is around and as close as possible to people. Either they are customers or they are internal customers, both of these sides. So if now, we are more or less done with the session now. If you have any final comments, I can invite you, as we are talking now about unlocking. People are returning to work, companies are opening all across the world. The mindset is changing from lockdown to unlocking. So when organizations are reopening, if you have any final comments, you can share at this point in time, or we can end the sessions.
Well, my final comment should be, as you rightly said, that we are slowly moving to a state which probably is beyond COVID-19. Hopefully, yes. We don't know how long this transition period will be. But things are slowly opening up. Unlocking is happening. We are getting ourselves ready for a world which is beyond COVID-19. Now, as we look beyond COVID-19, I can say that there are three paths which are waiting for us. And invariably, all of us are going to choose one of these three, one or other of the three paths or three roads that are going on. So what we end up choosing will depend on the choices that we make, the actions that we take. The three paths, the three roads which are ahead of us, waiting to take us to our future, are the road to perish, the road to survive, the road to thrive. And we might end up taking one of these three roads. Now, who will take the road to perish? Those of us who would believe, or who continue to believe, that we will go back to the old world. Those of us who are in a state of denial. Those of us who refuse to change will probably take the path on road to perish. Who will take the road to survive? Those of us who acknowledge the change, those who are willing to embrace the change, those of us who are willing to learn new skills, adapt to the change, will of course survive. We will take the road to survive. Who will take the road to thrive? Probably, in my opinion, very few of us will take the road to thrive, though I expect that one love to see more and more people take that road. Those of us who are not prepared to accept the change, embrace the change, but those of us who are ready to convert this change into an opportunity will thrive. They are the ones who will drive the new world. They are the ones who will be calling the shots. They are the ones who will be writing the rules of the new world. They are the ones who have the ability to see the change before it comes. They have the ability to connect the dots between the past, the present, and the future. My dear professional colleagues, friends, I think my 2 cents should be, my suggestion would be to reevaluate, look at ourselves, look at the options that we have, choices that we need, the decision that we need to make. We might end up taking one of these 3 roads, but which one we'll take will depend on our decisions, our choices, our actions. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for taking and describing blissfully the scenarios on these questions which we have. I think viewers would have a lot of learning to take from.